All right, hi everybody. Just waiting for to join us. And so if you, hopefully you can hear me. Looks like we got a few people joining. So it looks like our live chat, I'm not quite sure what's going on there with YouTube. So what I've done is I've just put a post up on Facebook, and if you want to just add your questions to that in the comment section, it's the latest post on my David Mellor Horsemanship Facebook group. And if you have questions, you just put it in there. So I'm not sure why the live chat's not working, but I've just got this big error thing going on. I was hoping it's going to fix itself when we started going live, but obviously it's not. So we'll just give people a bit of time to get on and watch us, and we'll get started. Okay, well, so tonight I'm going to talk about my new program. As you can see, if you scroll down where the video feed is, you can see all the pages there. And as the name says, it's called Finding Your Path. It's a roadmap for you and your horse. And the whole thing for me came because I was quite confused in my own mind about, well, how does the natural horsemanship and knowledge that I've been doing for a fair while, especially with Steve Harpenny, how did that marry with the more classical teachings that I've been learning from Manolo Mendez? And it was sort of, you know, black and white. It didn't seem to sort of work, because what Manolo was teaching me and doing was quite different to what I'd sort of known a long time. And it all really came about for me because I got a new horse. A lot of you may know that Luca, my warm blood, and everything I was doing with her, my normal training, my normal patterns, it just wasn't working. She was just fighting me and obviously not happy, and it just, what I was normally getting with other people's horses and other horses, it just wasn't working. And so I had to go looking for some more information, for more knowledge, to the point where with her is that, well, what do I do? You know, I'm just not getting anywhere with her. And do I sell her? Who do I sell her to? Do we turn them to a broodmare? Well, I don't want more of these sorts of horses, and with this much, you know, attitude. So it was like, well, we better learn a bit more and try and use her, try and ride her. So that was nearly about 18 months ago, nearly 2 years. And so that's when I got back, contacted Manolo and got back for more lessons with him. And it made a huge difference to her. And so it was particularly the lunging. It was the lunging with the cavesson, which we'll talk about a bit later on in more depth. But for her, it's all about balance, and her balance and my balance when I'm riding her. But she gets very upset very easily when she's out of balance. And when she's out of balance and when she's upset, her neck compacts really quickly. She gets very tight and very high, and then her back gets very tight, and it's obviously uncomfortable to her, and so it just becomes this vicious cycle. So the whole idea of riding her, and now riding any horse I ride, is about keep their balance, find their balance, and riding, what I'm doing is all geared towards the horse finding their balance, finding their relaxation to achieve rhythm. And so rhythm being that nice rhythmic cadence, regardless of what gait you're in, and the horse be able to stretch and open its neck, its jaw, and move in a nice, relaxed, balanced posture. From that, it's developing the horse so that they become, and that's easy for them, they naturally start to find it, and then they start finding self-carriage, and then to be able to use that to do other things. And so we want to do, but that now is my starting point, trying to teach the horse this is the soft, relaxed posture. And then later on down the track, I'll be trying to shorten her body for collection without shortening her neck. And at the moment, if I try and shorten her body, her neck shortens as well. And then her neck shortens, we jam her head goes high, her back hollows out, and it all falls apart. And the space is about one stride. So it's, for her at the moment, it's about establishing this relaxation and this rhythm, and so it's consistent, and by doing, turning and transitions and cantering and all the normal basic things that we want to do with our horses, that doesn't, her balance and relaxation doesn't just fall apart. And at the moment it does. And so she's pretty out there. She's pretty extreme. If some of you might have seen her. So that's where it all sort of started from. My training and knowledge I had with Steve was the natural horsemanship and the Buck Brannaman world, and then the Manolo world. And then I met a lady called Tanya Mitten, and some of you may know her. And so Tanya has changed a lot of the way how I ride. So particularly body position and just the actual mechanics of how I sit and where my thighs are. So Tanya did, and that's been incorporated into this roadmap as well, because I found that the things that she had to change in me were things that I was starting to see in my students very quickly, and then I'd sort of show them the little bits of what Tanya had taught me, and I'll see quite amazing changes so quickly. And I told Tanya, I said, look, I hope you don't mind, but I'm teaching this. I can't help myself, because I can't now try and teach them what I already know and I know it works, without now adding this to it, because I can see it's just stopping people. They're riding with their thighs obviously just clamped on too tight, and I can see that's causing a brace in the horse. Them to change how they're sitting and open their thigh a little more and get them to relax and just get them to breathe. Have you been teaching me, and I'm seeing the changes. And she was more than happy. I said thank you, because I'm doing it anyway. I can't help myself. So that's sort of, we've got three worlds really mixed into this program now. We've got the natural horsemanship world, we've got the Manolo world, and we've got the Tanya Mitten riding world. And it's for me, this is now my program. This is what I do. This is how I ride. This is how I teach. So I sort of formalized it into how I think it can be taught. And so we're going to go through it. I'm going to be able to hopefully share the screen across, and I'll be able to show you as we go along. And for those of you who already know me and a bit of work with me, so here we are with, obviously that's the front page, and I called it Finding Your Path, because this isn't a recipe in that it's just, this is what you do, X, Y, Z. It's a roadmap from point A through to not a finished product, but an achievement. How you get there, all these boxes, all these different steps. For me, these were the important parts that I've done, and I think that are really important that people understand and can do. Whether or not you can do that box, well, that's where we might need to have to break it down and give you more steps. This is why it's a roadmap, not a recipe, because here's the map to get to the point, but we might have to together, put more steps in there. You might have to, well, I can't do that. All right, can we break that step into 3 steps that you can do or your horse can do? And that's why there's deliberate blank pages when you get a hard copy from me, is that the blank pages are there for you to write the extra steps. And hopefully you make little arrows and you make little notes through it. And it's something that you can take away from lessons and from clinics, and you start to develop your own map and your own training manual for you and your horse. And you make notes, and we give you more boxes, and you turn it into something specific for you guys. And I think that's really, really helpful. I wish I had something like this when I was starting out, because there's so much out there and there's so much information we do need to learn. But it's knowing what bits to really pay attention to, what bits are important, and because you just can't learn everything. We haven't got enough lifetimes. So this little pyramid is in my mind how it all links together. So at the bottom we've got the building a connection, the ground skills, and that's the natural horsemanship. For those of you who sort of just joined us, obviously the comment section is not working. Thank you, Google, or YouTube, I should say. So if you want to ask any questions about anything, if you jump onto Facebook, onto the David Mellor Horsemanship page, there is, I put just a page up there that says we're going live. And if you just put anything in the comment section, I'm watching that now, and so I can get your comments that way, and we can through the comment section. So so jump onto Facebook then and just grab me, and you can put any questions you might have as we go along. So building that connection, the ground skills, is the natural horsemanship. And if we go down and look at the box, so for the blue box, it's quite obviously stuff that Steve has been doing for a while. It's about building that connection. It's developing a trust, developing the bond, teaching people. To me, this everything in these boxes, this is the stuff that some people naturally seem to have. And by some people like Manolo and Steve and all the really good guys in this world that you meet horses, you hand them a horse and the horse goes from how it was with you, and it changes because the horse sees what you know and what you don't know, and it responds to that. It sees how many hours, how many hundreds of hours you've been doing it. No, it sees your knowledge or lack of it. It sees all that in your body. And to be honest, I think these guys even read our thoughts to a certain degree. So the really good people do have a natural affinity with horses and working with them. For those of us who don't, this is something we have to learn. And this is what the blue box is about. It's about learning those physical steps and learning how to move, how to think from the ground to be safe and to develop that connection. That's what this block's about. And so for some people, they already have this. They may not even know they've got this. But just by watching them working with the horse, you would say they're quite natural. They naturally move towards the horse. They naturally get the horse to move away from them. They're naturally calm. Don't have that. A lot of us, for one reason or another, we have worry or fear in our body about horses. We haven't been given the instruction or taught, well, how do you actually get a horse to move away from you? Why is it important that a horse will move away from you? These are all the things that it's critical to me that people can do and understand, because it's about safety. And especially with kids, if they haven't been taught this, and it's an accident waiting to happen. So each one of those boxes in there is to me is something really important to learn and to be able to do. And if we go back up to the pyramid, you can see the estimated time frame to learn this. I've deliberately put 2 to 4 weeks. So I'm not expecting people to stay in this area for long. I'm expecting you to learn it, to be able to do it, and then move on. I don't want people staying in the natural horsemanship ground skills for months and months at a time, because it's not the right place to be, because you need to move on for you and your horse, especially your horse, because we need to get into balance. And we don't really talk about balance a lot in natural horsemanship. And that's something I think is lacking from a lot of clinicians. So that's what the blue block's all about. Once we have that connection, then we can take it and build on it and add it to our lunging and balance, which is the Cavesson work. Now we're coming more into the Mellor world, the classical training that happens with all the high-level dressage schools throughout Europe. So French riding school, the Spanish riding school, Andalusian riding school, horses lunging in Cavessons. Mellor starts all his work in hand in the Cavesson. And after doing it now for a while, I can see why he does it, and I totally agree that it's critical that I think most people should learn it. In fact, everybody should learn it and be able to do it well, because it's about teaching your horse how to move in balance and relaxed from the ground without interference of the rider. And to me, it makes perfect sense that if your horse has great difficulty lunging and being in balance, then it only stands to reason that it probably will be a lot harder for him. If he can't do without us, well, when we hop on his back, it's going to be harder again. That's why I think this is so important, is because it's teaching the horse, well, this is how you do it. This is where it's easy and soft and relaxed, and teaching the horse how to find that position so that when we do hop on their back and ride, it's much easier for them to start to find it, because they've already found it by themselves. And these are all the steps that I've sort of had to nut my way through learning how to do the lunging, and I certainly wouldn't even begin to say that I've mastered it. But after spending a lot of time having lessons with Manolo and talking to him and watching some other people with videos and lunging, but it's not difficult. I think the basics of the lunging is not difficult. The difficult part is all the subtleties. And because when you get into this level of communication, it is about subtleties. And just where you hold that bamboo with the horse will make a big difference. Whether you're just an inch or two too high or too low on his leg will make a difference. How you hold your hand, a little open or a little pull back, will make a difference. So the blue block with the ground skills of moving your horse around, people could generally see big changes, and we could make sort of big movements, and people could sort of see it and learn it quite easily. Well, now we've got to refine that down, because we're now having a conversation with our horse. It needs to be a quiet conversation, because the Cavesson is there to have that quiet conversation. Hello, Teresa. Thank you for waving. Obviously you can't see me for the moment, but thank you for a shout out. Anybody else can do that, that'd be great too. Obviously you can hear me. So the balance is, you can see all those blocks there. Each one is disposed to stepping stones to be able to do it. And you won't be able to get your horse lunging until you can probably do all these steps. And this is, obviously I take you through it and we show you, and you do a bit and I do a bit. But at the end of it, we're looking to have that horse moving in an open, relaxed frame, equal weight, front and back, left and right. And we can do a little walk, a little trot, a little canter. We can do some simple transitions. We can do a little bit of leg yield, a little bit of shoulder in. And the horse is doing it, and it looks nice, and it takes a bit of time. So if we go back up to our pyramid, 1 to 2 months. Now, that's 1 to 2 months, and it's not going to be, it's not finished. That's 1 to 2 months, and you'll probably be, doing it and not embarrassing yourself. So all these time frames, these are just, an idea. It all depends on your own skill, difficulty with the horse you're working with, how many hours a day, how often you can do and work with them each week. So, owned by any step in the imagination. And then we have the horsemanship skills. So this is obviously the orange one here. And so this is, again, about safety. We've now built a good connection from the ground with the natural horsemanship and the lunging. We've got a horse who's working quite nicely for us. Now we're going to ride. To me, the natural horsemanship is really, really good for safety. It's about understanding how the horses are thinking. It's about understanding some practical ways of getting in control of the horse's feet. And we do need to have control, I think. It's important that if we're riding the horse, we are in control. I don't want to be riding a horse and I feel like I don't have control, because the horses are different to humans in that they are really they're craving actually a leader and for someone to tell them what to do. And when a horse, particularly young horses, when they don't feel like they have that leadership, play up. Because in the herd, you got a group of horses, there's a pecking order. You just got to feed them, and you soon see where that pecking order is. There is not a horse there that will eat first, guaranteed. He or she, they're just going to push them all out of the way. They're eating first, and then all the other ones are going to do the same thing that's why you got to spread feed out a lot of the time. This is because there's argy-bargy going on. If you put the food too close, well, they're always argy-bargying about this my food and you're too close, and that's how horses get hurt. So you spread it out. That's what we all do. So there's a pecking order. And number one horse is number one horse. Number one horse got to be number one horse because it pushes everybody else around. And there's a look, and after the look, there comes a bite and a kick. And at dinner time, that's real fast generally. So number one horse controls everybody else, pushes them around, doesn't back down much. But if we take that horse out of the herd, everybody else gets upset because we've taken the boss away, we've taken the leader away. So it's two sides of a coin. On one side of that coin is the boss horse who's in control, who gives the orders, who pushes everyone around, bites and kicks them until he gets them to move. But on the other side of that coin is safety and comfort and reassurance, is that all the other horses take from that lead horse because he or she is the lead horse. We've got to achieve the same thing. And that's what the natural horsemanship part for me is really about. It's about getting that psychological connection with your horse about, I'm number one horse. You have to listen to what I say. But at the same time, I will give you that comfort and that safety. I will protect you if you listen to me. And depending on the horse you're working with, that can be difficult because you might be working with a horse who is number one horse, especially if you're working with mares or stallions or, some of those more highly strung horses, is that because if we get too dominant, if we get too strong, then they get defensive. But if we're not strong enough, then they feel they're in charge. So it's a very, very fine line between being too strong and too demanding or domineering and being too soft and not being strong enough. And depending on your horse, that's where the art of all this lies. So the natural horsemanship and the riding is about putting that back into practice for the riding. So ending, the importance of correct breathing. That's a little bit from Tanya Mitten's well, but it's so important. I decided I'd put it right here in the beginning because so many of us, when we're worried, we hold our breath. And the second we hold our breath, the horse gets tight. The horse gets tight, we get tight, and it all falls apart. So one of the first things that any of us can do, we're on a horse and the horse is getting a little worried or loose, is to breathe and just take big, long breaths and just let that physical tension out of our body. And a lot of times the horse just blows his well and just goes, oh, okay, we're all right. And you don't have to do anything else except just take a big breath and rub your horse. So that's why I put that right at the very beginning. Understanding when to get off your horse. There's this big misconception that you get off the horse wins. That's just stupid. I tell people, get off your horse if you reach a point where you can no longer help your horse. You might not feel like you're going to get bucked off or be hurt, but your horse is in such a state of mind and such a tiz that your very presence of being on their back, they can't relax. You can't help them. And if any of you saw me at last lessons with Tanya Mitten, my horse Luca on day 3, she had a complete meltdown. And I was riding her, I was on her back, and within 30 seconds, it was just like, no. And I wasn't in danger. I didn't feel like I was going to be hurt. I wasn't going to get bucked off, but I couldn't do anything with her. I was fighting with her. I was having to control her and bend her because she was just going to erupt and take off on me. And I had to get off. So I didn't get off because I was in danger and I shouldn't be up here. I got off because I couldn't help her. Me being on her back was too much for her. It was just too much for her little brain. So I had to get off. And we went back to our natural horsemanship ground skills and just getting her to start to listen to me again and to relax and get her brain back in gear. And I was able to get back on and ride her for a little bit. And then we finished. It took me about 45 minutes to do it. And then I had another ride later on the end of the day, and she went really well. So getting off is not always about safety. It can just be that your horse needs you to get off. For whatever reason, it's just too much going on, and you being on their back is not helping. For a lot of us, it's when we get to a point mentally that we're so worried or we're scared that we become ineffective. And most people, when we become worried or scared, we stop thinking clearly, we get tight in our body, we start gripping, we don't breathe correctly, all the things that just makes it impossible to train a horse. So I tell people, get off when you can't be effective, when you can't help your horse, either because your worry is in your way or because your horse is so worried he just needs you to get off. But get off and help your horse from the ground. Now, take as long as it takes, and then get back on again if you need to or want to, or stop and finish. But what the saying is, don't ever get off your horse because the horse wins. Don't just get off your horse and quit. That's wrong, because yes, the horses can learn pretty quickly that they get a bit loose, a bit silly, a bit fizzy, and we get off and they get put back in the paddock. That's wrong. So if you're riding a horse and they're getting a little silly and you're going, you're not really enjoying this, that means you should be getting off. Not another 5 minutes. Get off then. If that little thing in your head or your brain goes, yep, not good, should be getting off, not liking this, get off, but now get effective from the ground. Do what you thought you should have done in the saddle from the ground. And by that I mean, use your leg, push them around, bring up the life, or whatever it is you felt you really needed to do from the saddle, but you couldn't because the horse would erupt. Work them through it, get them relaxed again, and then make a decision. But if you get them to the point where they then calm down, hey, they've come through the other side. You've done something really good. Put them back in the paddock. You've probably been at it for a while then. So that's understanding when to get off your horse. Having a feel, what does this mean? So this is all about the weight and the reins and your legs, and what do we actually mean by feel? So exploring that idea and starting to get an understanding of too loose, too tight, too much leg pressure, not enough leg pressure, all those ideas, getting a handle on that. And then we got some simple actual exercises, which I think are just really critical for anyone who's going to ride a horse to be able to do and understand. So simple lateral flexion, walking, there's some simple hind quarter yields. So just bending your horse to the stop. So those are the things that helps particularly young kids coming along, or people who haven't really done much riding, building in some safe habits there. So if in doubt, reach for one rein, start to bend your horse instead of just pulling on two reins. We start talking about being in time with your horse's feet, so the front feet and the back feet. Learn how to feel for those feet, and then how to get your horse to stop and to back up a little bit. So again, teaching the horse to give to pressure, and again, all really about safety. And so from those boxes. You should then have a horse that you, at least at the walk, are riding and steering and turning, and you're feeling pretty safe and you've got a plan. And so that other big box there is understanding how to read the horse. So teaching or learning how to, the little tells of the horse, the physical tells of what is the horse thinking? You know, where is their mind, more importantly? And I always say to people that though the ears are the gateway to the brain, those ears are pointing is where they're thinking. So if you have two ears pointed very tightly off to the side of the paddock, that's where their mind's at. They're going, what's that over there? All their focus is wing, straight across over there. They've got no focus on you. And they forget about us. And then they get scared, and then we get scared, and then suddenly they realize, oh, there's a human still on my back who's just dug his claws in. So that makes them even more scared. So if we can always try and get the horse to keep a little bit of attention back on us, then that's a big safety deal, I think. And that's learning to read the horse to realize that you've lost their mind, and learning that before you lose their feet. That's what really helps keep you safe. And then, so putting all that together is into some patterns and people learning some plans of what we're going to do, what you're going to do if X, Y, Z happens. My horse starts to go faster. I am going to do this to slow it down. That doesn't work. I'm then going to do the next step. And that doesn't work. I'm going to do the next step. So you don't get out there and your horse starts going a little fast and you go, ah, I'm going to die. What do I do? What do I do? It's like, we don't just get in a car. We don't just get an airplane and just hope we can drive or fly and land properly. You know, you practice, you go on simulators, you take tests, you read books, you watch videos, you learn it, you have an instructor with you. A lot of us hop on horses and we don't do any of that. We just expect to be able to ride. And then people get hurt because reality kicks in. So this whole section is about safety, safety in the saddle. And for some people, this may not be an issue. You know, we can literally tick all this off in 1 hour. And yep, you can do all that. You understand all that. You feel really comfortable with that. Fantastic. You know, that makes me happy that you're riding with me, that I know you're safe. And hopefully it also gives you confidence in your horse to know that you're safe. You know this. You can do this. You've demonstrated it. We've ticked it off. We've gone through it. You've proven it. Have confidence in yourself. That as things start to fall apart, you have the skills to work your way through it. So that, because then that brings you to the final block. And if you have a look, quickly go back up to our pyramid, you'll see that that's right at the top. And this is the bit that is going to take us the longest. And I'm still working on this with my horse. Riding to achieve balance. And by that, I mean learning what is balance. So learning to feel for that balance in your horse. So even weight distribution, front and back, 50-50. Even weight side to side, lateral balance. So when your horse goes around corners, is it in balance? Too many horses, including mine, when we go around corners, she falls out of balance very easily. And when she's out of balance, that worries her, and so then she gets tight at the neck, and then she gets more out of balance, and then she gets more worried, and then we rush, and then she hates that, then I clamp down to survive, then it all falls apart. So it's understanding what balance feels like and looks like. It's balance in the horse and it's balance in us. And so you've got two boxes, and one's talking about our balance, and so this is the Tanya Mitten world of correct positions, the pelvis, the thigh, and our breathing. And then how does the horse's balance affect you? So looking and feeling for the horse's balance. And most horses are either sort of a left-handed horse or right-handed horse. And by that we sort of mean they're tighter on the left side or the right side. And you just got to ride your horse for a couple of circles both directions to work out which way does the horse, is it softer, is it more flexible, is it more balanced to the left or more balanced to the right? And So once you sort of work that out, it's then, okay, well, the side they're not as balanced on, well, we need to get them more balanced. That's our goal. So how do we do that? So a large part of that is the way how we ride. And that's particularly with the thigh and pelvis section from Tanya, it plays a really big part. And the more I work with Tanya, the more I learn that. So it's learning those, making some small adjustments to our riding position can go a long way of helping the horse. And then learning a bit more, we'll call it dressage. I'm certainly not going to call myself a dressage instructor, but dressage really just means horse training. And to me, this is the good horse training now. Now this is the hard stuff. So learning how to be in time with the horse's feet. Left front, left hind, right hind, really learning now how to be in time with them and feel them when we're riding balanced ourselves. Start to really learn how the horse is when the horse is out of balance and what you actually feel, recognizing those changes and recognizing the longitudinal balance and the lateral balance. And then once you can feel it, what do you do about it? So it's exercises to help rebalance the horse. From that balance, preparing your horse for the transitions. So if riding an unbalanced horse, they go from walk to trot. A lot of times they throw themselves up into that trot or sort of fall out of the trot when they're coming down. So working on or learning how to work on the transitions. And then from trotting, rising trot, learning your correct diagonals if that's something you haven't ever learned before, because being on the correct diagonal is critical for balance, but it also tells you where the horse's feet are. Because if we need to rebalance a horse, if we know what diagonal we are on, then we know which pair of feet are moving. So it starts to make it really easy to know which feet are off the ground and which feet are on the ground if we understand our diagonals. And then from that into sitting trot, so learning how to start to do a sitting trot without just bouncing on the horse's back, and learning how to relax our pelvis and follow that movement. And from that, it's learning how to follow the feet as well. So the rising trot, we're up off the horse's back. When the sitting trot, we're not. The trot is the same, but it's learning that new feel. And then all that really comes into your seat and using half halts and other exercises for longitudinal balance. So rebalancing the horse, trying to get them to bring their weight back onto their hindquarters. So shoulder in exercises can do that. Half halt exercises can do that. Different types of patterns can do that. And then building into lateral steps. So shoulder in is we just talked about, leg yields, different smaller circles, voltes, and later on it'll be half passes, full pass, which is also like a sideways maneuver, and learning how to start doing the lateral steps without sort of blocking the horse or cramming our leg on hard, which causes a brace. So it's more about creating openings and being in time with the horse for the horse to move away from that pressure. And all that comes together and learning how to influence the horse's inside hind leg, which we would have learnt about in our lunging phase, to start to get them to be able to bring their inside hind leg underneath them, which is what really helps cause the flexion to come through the horse. So that lateral bend we see on a nice circle. When you start to get that, horses that have a high head, they start to naturally lower that head. And that's one of the biggest mistakes we can make with horses that, who have a high head carriage or that camel type shape going on, is that we try and get their head down. And so we focus on the head on the front end. So we see riders with using their reins and sort of pulling and seesawing and doing all sorts of things, trying to get the horse's head down. The problem with having a high head isn't usually in the head. It usually starts in the back end. It's in the hips, it's in the hindquarters. That's where the brace is. And so all these things, all these boxes we've just been talking about, well, they're all really talking about the back end. They're all talking about the hindquarters and the horse's back end and the feet and getting that suppleness working from them. Once that's happening, then you put a little bit of pressure on the horse's face And a lot of times they just naturally come down. You don't have to pull and you don't have to do anything. You just start to show them, because you've already done the groundwork for this. You've already done the lunging. The horse has already been taught where that soft, relaxed posture actually is. Now, with us on their back, maybe they've lost it because maybe our riding's not good enough, or maybe our ride's a little unbalanced, and so we're unbalancing them, and that's why their head's going high all the time. So it's not about getting their head down, it's actually about fixing our balance. But sometimes we do have to show the horse where we need them to be. And so learning how to use our hands in a soft way to help them to lower their head and come into that soft, open position that we have with lunging. And then when all that is working well, you got cantering. And so my question is always, well, is your horse ready to canter? I think a lot of us, we start to canter a bit too soon. The horse isn't ready, maybe we're not ready. So it's about just that. Is your horse ready to canter? Are you ready to canter? Now it's faster. Now there's more movement. And so if your horse is having big problems with balance in the trot, it will be harder in the canter. If you are having big problems in the trot, it will be harder in the canter. So chipping away at the cantering without even cantering, so that could be a little faster trotting, faster and slower, faster and slower. It can be going into a canter position and then the horse gets a little tense and then just walking again. So taking away that emotion that the horse has been experiencing with the preparation of cantering. So putting all that together to riding your horse in balance with relaxation. Because to me, that is the goal. It's about getting horses to be relaxed, so when we ride them and they're balanced and they're relaxed, that'll give us rhythm. And when you ride a horse that has rhythm, it's really easy to do just about anything, because you can point them and they just steer and they don't go faster and they don't go slower and they don't fight you and they don't brace on you. It's just you offer a little canter and they just pull into a canter, and you go, well, could you just bring your hips in a little bit, and you're doing quarters in. And you take that quarters in and you sort of take your hands sideways and you got yourself half pass. It's like, this is really easy. And I was at Manolo's and he was giving a lesson to one of the top Australian riders there. I won't say who it was, but she was riding one of her young horses. And she made the comment to Manolo that, this is not, they're working on Piaffe. And she said, this is so easy, but all we got to do, and she was referring to the horse. And Manolo said, yeah, you're right. It is easy if the horse is in balance. And she was, she's dead right. And I could see it as well. They were working not so much on Piaffe, they were working on the horse's balance and relaxation. Getting that horse to relax and be in balance. And then with the right technique, the horse started piaffing and a little passage down there, and it was amazing. So balance and relaxation, it cannot be overemphasized, and it can never be good enough. And if you ever get the opportunity to watch Manolo riding any of his horses, it is a perfect example of balance and relaxation. It's beautiful to watch, there's no question. So on my final page on our little thing, your real journey now begins. It's because that is just really the beginning of your horse riding ability. Your real journey now begins. This is not the end of anything. Now you can go off and do your trail riding and do your competitions and jumping and cow working, equitation, whatever it is you want to do. If you can get your horse to this end point, you can go off and have lessons from the jumping person or a dressage person or a cow working person, and you'll probably be able to do what they want you to do. But too many people put pressure on themselves and their horses before they're ready. Now that's why I've written it there. because they just weren't ready for it. The horse wasn't prepared, the rider wasn't prepared. So you need to spend the time and effort learning these skills, because it's not easy, but doing anything good never is. So that's why I put all that there. So that is the program. And hopefully it's sort of a bit more clear about where it all came from and why it's there. So when you come to lessons with me or you come on clinics, then this is what I teach now. And when you come, I now give you a bound copy of the program, and hopefully you make some notes on it and come back and we build on it. So when people signed up to this webinar, I said we're going to sort of have a bit of a special available to people. And so my next clinic, I'm going to have a 2-day clinic in December 9th and 10th. And normally my clinics are $350 for the 2 days. And for those of you who have signed up for our webinar, I'm going to make the offer at $250. So you're getting $100 off. You're going to receive an email after this, which tomorrow, I hope the system works properly, and it's going to have a link on there if you would like to come to the clinic way through the whole program over the 2 days. There's going to be a maximum of 12 people. We have 12. We'll be running 2 small groups, so have an hour and a half. We're riding an hour and a half, watching and swap over. So do that twice a day, which are pretty standard. But we're going to work our way through this and hopefully develop this into a program for you. And so you may not get to the end. I guarantee you won't get to the end. But we're going to hopefully set it up so you can see where you're going in a week's time, a month's time, 6 months' time, and help keep you on track. So if that's of interest to you, keep an eye on your emails. If for some reason you don't get it and you like to take me up on the offer, then please just contact me, send me a message, send me an email, whatever you like to do. And hopefully we will see you all in the future. If we haven't had any questions on Facebook, so either no one's been hearing me and I've been talking to myself, or I've made sense. So hopefully I've made some sense. If this has been successful, then we'll certainly be trying to do it again in the future with some other topics. And if people like to send them in, then I'll be more than happy to talk about. The final thing, which I haven't mentioned, is that this entire program, which we've been going through, I am going to be videotaping and turning into an online program that people will be able to join and watch. So it's going to be videotaped. There's going to be, and everything is going to be so you can learn it online as a program. And so I'm waiting on a new remote control camera. It's called a Solo Shot to arrive, which hopefully it will be here by the end of November. And I've got 2 weeks off at Christmas. So I'm planning of trying to have this done by Christmas, fingers crossed. So it'll be available, and I'll be asking and looking out for people. Yes, Rose, this is how you ask a question. And people to be beta testers, so we'll be offering it to people for a much lower reduced price that you'll be able to join and take full advantage of all the videos. There'll be a private closed Facebook for questions and answers. We'll be running live webinars like this, and it's taking all the information that we've been talking about from the program, but setting it out in a proper course video format so you can really learn. And so that's coming, and that's going to be available hopefully by the end of the year. And so we'll be looking for some testers. So if that think that might be of interest to you, then stay tuned, and we'll keep you in it. So yes, sorry Ria, that's okay. I don't know why YouTube let us down tonight with the questions. It was working well a couple of days ago, and for some reason now it's not. So The joys of technology. And Rose, I don't know if you wanted to ask a question. I can see that you posted it there, but if you have a question, please shoot it off. All right, maybe not. That's okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you all very much for tuning in, and keep an eye on your emails, and we'll see you again in the future. Thanks a lot.